Hey guys, welcome back to this audiobook channel. We are going to be reading Tone Deaf by Olivia Rivers. And we are on chapter 14 from Allie's perspective, and this starts on page 110. That beast. And it'll be ending on page 122 or 23, I think. So, somewhat long, but be ending on page 121. So, it's about 11 pages long, so anyway, let's just get right into it. So, Allie is now at Jace's RV, and we've heard her throw up, and she went for a nap, and now we're starting there, and this one's gonna be hard because there's a lot of voices, so bear with me. Let's get into it. When I open my eyes, everything is wrong. The ceiling isn't the right shade of white, and it's too low. The walls are painted bright green instead of the soft beige in my bedroom. Even the scent is wrong. My room is supposed to smell like pencil shavings and laundry detergent, and that unmistakable odor of the overheated computer. This room smells like cologne and some sort of wood varnish. It smells like a guy. Then it hits me, the concert, tone deaf, running away. Jace. A sudden burst of anxiety hits me, and my chest feels impossibly tight as the reality of my situation strikes me. I'm on the run with a guy who's practically a stranger. And if that's not bad enough, any minute now my dad is going to be figuring out that I'm gone, and he's not going to give up on finding me. I close my eyes, concentrating on slowing my frantic breaths. There's nothing I can do now to make things better, so I just need to focus on staying hidden, away and out of my dad's reach. I'm way too far into this to ditch my plans of escape. Glance over to the door and find it still locked, which gives me a little relief. Jace kept his promise to leave me alone in here. As I toss the sheet off, I look down at my clothes and grimace. They're damp with sweat, probably from the nightmares I was having. Definitely time for a change. The room shakes a little, and I throw out an arm to steady myself. We must be moving. I mean, this is an RV after all. As my heart calms down a little, I notice the steady flow of vibrations running through the floor, probably from the engine. It's official. We're on the road, and I'm actually running away. I gulp in a deep breath and decide I can second-guess myself and freak out about this situation later. For now, I'm sweaty and thirsty and hungry, and I need to do something about that. I creep outside the room, relieved when I don't see anyone. They must still be in the front of the RV, or where those couches are. Should I join them, or should I wait for Jace to come get me, to make sure I don't intrude or anything? I shuffle my feet and peer around, hoping for some sort of clue about what to do. My breath catches when I glance out the tiny window above the front door and see the setting sun. Have I really been asleep all day? The RV jostles as it hits a pothole, making me stumble and bump against the wall. I curse and bite my lip. Did anyone hear that? One of the worst parts about being deaf is not able to control my volume level. It's hard to tell how loudly I'm talking when I can't hear myself. My anxiety isn't making it any easier. I give a frustrated groan, not too loudly, and then rush into the bathroom. Relief courses through me as I spot my duffel, still tucked in the corner, undisturbed. I grab the bag and dig through for another change of clothes, quickly settling on a pair of ripped jeans and a t-shirt. I take a deep breath and stare in the mirror, cringing at the mess that looks back at me. My hair is ruffled and without makeup to hide it, my skin is freakishly pale, except where it's splotched with dark bruises. I curse again, unable to stop myself, and do my best to quickly fix my hair. Cleaning up further will have to wait until I get something to eat. I'm starving and my mouth is totally dry, reminding me of my long trek to the stadium. I hesitantly undo the lock and step out of the bathroom. The RV feels strange under my feet as the floor rocks softly, the rumbling engine creating a steady stream of vibrations. I glance out the window and see the desert rushing past, sand and rocks and more sand and rocks. It seems endless. And more sand and more rocks. It seems endless. New York has never felt farther away. I shudder and tread down the short hallway leading to the room with the couches. Killer is sitting at the desk in the far corner with a laptop. He's wearing nerd glasses and squinting at the screen, and the way his wrists expertly flicks around the mouse tells me he's experienced with computers. Strange. I didn't think rock stars could be geeks. Killer doesn't notice me, and I nervously shuffle my feet as I consider what to do. I could nonchalantly say, hey, and pretend I belong here, or I could introduce myself properly, which I've never got the chance to do earlier, although I'm not really sure how I'd do that. Hello, I'm Allie, a random chick who will be stowing away here for a bit. Pleasure to meet you. Sorry I've never listened to even a second of your music. Yeah, there's nothing I can say without being awkward. Before I can force any words out of my mouth, more vibrations move across the floor, and I look up to find Arrow striding out of the kitchen and toward me. He instantly floods my cheeks, and I grit my teeth. Last time I saw Arrow, it was when Jace had flipped me off. Not the most elegant of introductions. Arrow seems about as happy to see me as I am to see him. He tries to smile, but it comes off more as a grimace. Well, he says, if it isn't Jace's little sailor, I'm about to ask him what he means when I remember my curses from before. Oh, right. Where's Jace? I ask, trying to keep my feet still, but they just keep shuffling, giving away my anxiety. Arrow's posture remains rigid and unfriendly, and I can't help noticing that he has quite a bit of muscle. I watch his fist carefully in the corner of my eyes as I wait for a reply, unable to stop myself from the habit. Arrow inclines his head toward the front of the RV. Jace is taking shift driving. I nod and force in a deep breath. Okay, so I'm stuck with two strangers in a small, isolated room that Jace definitely isn't in. I can handle this. After all, if Jace is going through all of this trouble to help me, it's not like he's going to leave me alone with guys who are actually a threat. I edge towards the couch facing the desk. An arrow moves. I was like, darkness. An arrow moves toward the one opposite of it. We both sit at the same time, me barely touching the cushions. An arrow falling back heavily into them. The message is clear. He belongs here. I don't. Killer finally tears his attention from the computer and toward me, spinning his chair away from the desk as he offers me a wide smile. Relief trickles through me, slowing my pounding heart. At least someone is happy to see me. Killer pushes his glasses up his nose in a practiced way that tells me he's wearing them forever and doesn't use them just for style. Then he strides over to me and extends his hands. We haven't properly met. His lips move slightly differently, and I can tell that he has a pretty strong accent, which makes him all the more interesting, now that he's not hungover. I'm surprised to find that he's far from shabby looking. I can't tell what his race is. Maybe Asian, maybe African American, maybe both. Whatever he is, he's drop-dead gorgeous. Not really a handsome type of gorgeous, but a more delicate type, the kind that would make most girls jealous. Hi, I say, and hesitantly give him a little wave. But I don't take his hand. My nerves still feel overloaded with anxiety, and touching people is the last thing I want to do right now. Killer doesn't skip a beat when I reject his handshake. He just sticks his hand in his pockets and settles next to me on the couch, sitting way, way too close. I frown at him and scooch away. It's not his fault that I don't like being close to people. But still, this is definitely uncomfortably close, even for normal people. Again, Killer hardly seems to notice my reaction and just keeps smiling. He's wearing a black t-shirt with a silhouette of a white bow tie at the top. In bold letters, the shirt reads, "Bow ties are cool." My frown disappears as I recognize this saying from my favorite TV show. Yeah, Killer is definitely a geek in disguise. So, Killer says, "What's your name, little stowaway?" I'm guessing he already knows my name and is just trying to be polite by asking, but that just makes me like him even more. I'm Amy Collins. I'm Amy? Really? Where did that come from? I'm Allie Collins. A smirk tugs at his lips, but is merely amused and not at all scathing. Allie Collins, come on. Can you get more generic than that? I roll my eyes. If anyone else had asked that, I would have bitten their head off. Collins is my mom's name, and one of the last things I have left of her. And she chose the name Allison for me, which somehow makes it special, even if it is generic. But I can't get mad, not with Killer's goofy shirt and smile so close. It's not like I got to choose my name, I say. He laughs a little. Well, I guess that makes it more acceptable. Acceptable, I repeat. You're the one talking. Who names a kid Killer? I was really bad at keeping my pet goldfish alive when I was little. On the other couch, Arrow cracks a small smile, but it's strained, as he stares at me, I avoid his harsh gaze. He nods to Killer. Don't listen to him. His real name is Kilimanjaro. I raise my eyebrows at Killer. Whoa, that's so much worse. He sighs and holds up his hand like he's surrendering to the terrible naming skill of his parents. Totally not my fault. I was adopted by hippies. He points to his boyfriend. Arrow started calling me Killam when we were like 16. Wow, which Jace quickly turned into Killam. And then Killer, Arrow explains. And it stuck, Killer says. It's kind of cute how they keep finishing each other's sentences. They sound like an old married couple, which I guess they pretty much are. Well, not technically married and definitely not old. But according to Avery, Killer and Arrow have been boyfriends since the very start of their band. Dang, I wish I could talk to Avery. It hasn't even been a day and I already miss her exciting babble about tone deaf. Something I never thought I'd want to hear. I think she was already asleep when I sent the message last night. Otherwise, she would have come over and demanded to speak to me. But I'm sure she got the message this morning, and I cringe as I think of how worried she must be. Your band seems to have a thing for unique names, I say, continuing the conversation to distract myself from thinking about Avery. Why do you guys call yourselves tone deaf? Killer smirks. We used to practice in Jace's garage, and his neighbor was this grouchy old lady who hated our music. So one day she comes over and tells Jace that having a deaf father is no excuse for having zero musical talent. He tried arguing back, but she was just kept cutting him off and saying, well, you might not be deaf, but your band is tone deaf. Well, you might not be deaf, but your band is tone deaf. We were looking for a name at the time, and yeah, that's how we became tone deaf. Interesting. Jace has a parent who's deaf, which explains why he knows ASL. I try to cover my surprise by nodding to Arrow. What about your name? Is Arrow short for something? The curve of Arrow's smile grows sharper. Yeah, it's short for poor fool with white trash parents. Oh, I mumble. I must look as uncomfortable as I feel because Killer gently places a reassuring hand on my arm. I deftly remove myself from his touch, doing my best not to grimace. You were sleeping for a long time, Killer says, his smile fading just a little. Do you want some food or something? Maybe something to drink? I'll, get it for myself. Is that okay? Of course, he nods toward the kitchen and hops off the couch. Come on, I'll show you around. These voices keep changing, man. Just all over the place. I feel like they're distinct enough, you know. I follow him into the small kitchen where he proceeds to point out the refrigerator and cupboards full of health food. Whole grain cereal, sunflower seeds, protein drinks, and fruit seems to be Jace's staples. Whatever happened to young guys living off junk food? Killer is chatting excitedly, and I quickly lose track of his words. He doesn't seem to understand the concept of lip reading, namely, that it involves me looking at his lips, and not watching him twirl around the kitchen as he fetches me a cup of some natural energy drink that looks like pee. Apparently, he's not going to let me get a drink for myself, which is kind of annoying and kind of sweet. I sit at the counter, which has two little stools pulled up to it. Killer plunks the drink beside me and sits on the other stool, once again way too close. But he's still smiling and not at all put off by the fact that I haven't replied to a word he said in like 2 minutes. Here, he says, shoving the drink toward me, it's lemon lime. No caffeine, so it's good for dehydration. I take a long gulp of it and find out a moment too late that it's carbonated. I start coughing the moment I pull the cup away, but I can't stop myself from taking another gulp. After I've chugged half the glass, I realize that Killer is staring at me, his eyebrows raised in amusement. Sorry, I mumble. He laughs a little and says, so much for Jace taking care of you, 8 hours in and you're already dying of thirst and pale as a ghost. I blush a little as I look down at my arm, finding he's right. My skin is still totally white, and it's going to take more than a few sips of energy drink to make up for my dehydration and lack of food. So, he props his head up on his palm, leaning his elbow away against the counter. How's your road trip been so far? Good. You don't sound very sure of it. I bite my lip as I struggle to think of a way to deflect this conversation, but Killer just shakes his head. Don't worry, sweetie said. Jace can be a jerk, but he's not the type to back out of promises. If he says he'll help you, stay safe. He means it. His smile is soft and a little pitying, which probably means Jace told him more about my situation than I would have liked. Although I imagine it couldn't be helped. Jace told me he doesn't keep lies from bandmates, and I doubt they would have been okay with me being here with zero explanation. Thanks, I murmur hesitantly. Killer winks and quickly moves the conversation along. You got to phone? Not with me, why? He rolls his eyes, but in a playful way, not a mean one. Why do you think I want your number? Oh. He stares at me for a long second, his face crumpling into a puzzled expression. Then he throws his head back and laughs. What? I demand. Killer just keeps chuckling. You just gave me the least enthusiastic response I've ever gotten from asking for a girl's number. His hand flies toward me, and I nearly topple off the stool trying to dodge it. But he just lazily tosses his arms over my shoulder and pulls me into an awkward hug. Killer considers me for a moment, then reaches into his pocket with his free hand and pulls out his phone, popping up a blank text. He quickly types a message and tilts the screen so I can see it. You have nothing to be sorrowful. It's refreshing not to have a girl freak out when I ask for her number. Oh, I cringe, realizing I just gave another lame answer. I try to slip out from under his arm. Thankfully, he lets me. Killer cocks his head, his smile fading as his gaze locks on my bruised cheek. He types a little more on the phone and then shows it to me again. You're not exactly the huggable type. Not really. He shrugs and pulls his arms back toward his side, away from my personal space. That's okay, he types, keeping the screen tilted so I can see. His fingers glide across the screen impossibly fast as he adds, I think I'm starting to understand why Jace likes you so much. Likes me, yeah, right. He pities me, sure, but that's a far cry from liking me. But I keep that all to myself and say, what do you mean? Jace isn't into hugs either. I frown, trying to come up with an appropriate response, other than BS. Killer catches my skeptical look and types, you mean Jace actually tried to hug you? Well, yeah, he did. I wince at how stupid I sound. I'm 17. I should know how to talk properly by now. Here I am, 16, fumbling over every word. But it's like my brain doesn't realize that and is determined to make me sound like an idiot. Killer's eyes grow wide and he leans forward a little, staring right at me. He must be looking for some hint that I'm joking, and when he doesn't find one, he slowly pulls back and frowns. Whoa, he says. I'm not sure if he means for me to read his lips or not. That's a first. I blush, not sure how to reply. A first? Definitely not. There's no way I'm Jace's first anything. He really likes you. Killer types. I look down at the counter, pretending to study the granite. I don't think so. Killer nudges at my side until I look back at his phone. No, Jace likes you. I'm sure of it. Okay, thanks. Killer quickly changes the subject. So you don't have a cell phone? No, I had to leave it. I don't elaborate on why, because my dad will never just let me go because he could use it to track me, because I can never, ever let him find me. I'll fix that for you, Killer types. Before I can reply, he jumps off the stool and leaves the kitchen. He gives me a little wave before disappearing into the next room. I roll the cup back and forth between my palms, unsure if I should follow him. Probably not. Even if he's being nice to me, he didn't sign up to having me trailing along after him like some sort of puppy. I take a little sip of the energy drink, even though I'm not really thirsty anymore. My spinning thoughts have completely ruined my appetite. The drink tastes too sweet, like it's made purely of sugar, but I ignore the taste and chug down the last few drops. As I set down the glass, I stare at it. Into it. It reflects my face, paleness and bruises and all. What am I doing, I mouth, watching my lips in the glass as they move with the words. Then I add, I don't belong with these people. Just as I mouth the words, the RV hits a bump in the road, tilting the cup over and ruining the reflection. So, that is the end of chapter 14 from Allie's perspective. We ended on page 121, so we'll be picking back up on page 122. So, thank you for joining me. And Tone Deaf by Olivia Rivers. I find this book really good and just like a little cute story. You know, it's just cute. So, Allie was feeling a little sick. She slept through like most of the day, and she had a little chat with Killer. And so we'll catch up with you next time. Bye for now.